Hello, I'm Gareth A Davies, and this is the Championship Rounds for Pitch Boxing, where I bring you all the interviews from the combat sports world. Enjoy. Frank Warren, great to see you.
Good to see you, young man.
Look, at the moment, the heavyweight division is absolutely thriving, and you've got three of the boxers who are the most prominent in the division. I think Daniel Dubois is top 10. I think he beats several of the top 10 fighters at the moment. A lot of people don't agree he's in the top 10. But Tyson Fury is retired, but we all kind of feel that he could be drawn back. I know you won't put pressure on him. But first of all, let me go to Joe Joyce. Great performance at the weekend in lots of ways. And he showed what maybe could tempt Wilder, could tempt any of the fighters into a fight with him, because he made himself look hittable against Christian Hammer. And yet he does the thing that he does. He became a juggernaut, as always. Joe Joyce, he's so highly ranked with the world governing bodies and on the cusp of a world title, but how do you get him that world title?
Well, first of all, he didn't make himself hittable. He was hittable. He's been out of the ring for a year. Coming off, he broke his wrist, so I was a little bit apprehensive whether he'd be throwing his punches, being worried about the effects of on his wrist, but he didn't care about that. And he basically took his shots, took Hammer's shots to land shots. And Hammer's no slouch. I mean, he caught him with some really big punches, but I think he took the fight out of him over the period of time because they were bouncing off of him. And Joe did what he does, and you said it. He's a juggernaut. He kept coming forward. At the end of the day, he prevailed. And what I liked about Joe is his variety of shots. He was working to the body. He was working to, he's behind his jab. He's letting his right hand and his hooks go, and he stopped him with a really good body shot. It's a phenomenal punch. How does Joe get a world title fight? Well, he'll get it when they order the mandatory, because he's the number one mandatory challenger. That's what will happen.
Is it worth him calling out Tyson Fury at this stage, though, do you think?
Well, he already has. He'll fight anybody. I mean, with Joe, he will fight anybody. He has no problem. It's whether Tyson decides he wants to do that, or if he comes back, he wants to fight for the unification after the 20th of August when Usyk and AJ get their rematch on. So whoever comes through that, once that fight's over, all the dust will settle as to where the heavyweight division's going. So Tyson will either be in there or he won't. And if he is, then Joe, who's ranked number one by the WBO, number two in the WBC, he'll just keep fighting, have some fights. And the number one in the WBA, and they're also that organisation's mandatory is behind, Daniel will do the same thing. But whatever happens, all roads lead to us. We work very hard to get our guys into position to fight for these, to be there when this all shakes out. And it's all going to shake out in August.
Do you feel that Tyson, if he walks away now, if he doesn't have any, say, 2 more fights or 3 more fights, do you feel that he may feel in a couple of years' time, I wish I'd fought? Because I know you've expressed this to me, that if he does fight again, you hope that he doesn't have a couple of 3 years off, because he will have missed out.
Look, I don't think he's even at his peak. I mean, he's got no miles on the clock. He was inactive for 2.5 years again during the COVID times. For me, the time for him to be fighting is when he's at his best. If he takes 2 years out, 3 years out the ring and come back, like a lot of fighters do, heavyweights do, I don't know whether that's right for him. I prefer to see Tyson Fury at his 100% best. And I think that's still to come. But 3 years down the road, he's older, his body will be older, and he won't be in fight mode. And who's going to be the champions then? You don't know. It's going to be quite an interesting scenario. I just feel Tyson's a fighting man, and I feel in his heart he will fight again.
Do you think he can fight Anthony Joshua even if Joshua loses to Usyk? And do you think that Joshua can pull this off against Usyk?
Would he fight Joshua? He may do. I don't know. I mean, it depends how he loses. If he gets knocked out, or I thought he got completely outclassed and beaten last time by Usyk. If he gets beaten again, he's his earning capacity drops dramatically. And who knows? Maybe not. Maybe he may not want to fight on. Those young, that young buck out there in Daniel Dubois, I'm sure would love to fight. And I know Joe Joyce, although he's only had 14 pro fights himself, he would love it. So they're all good fights there for him. How do I see the fight? I don't know what he can change, what he's doing. I mean, I was very surprised last time in his tactics. I thought that because of his size and his jab, and his superior reach, I thought he would have imposed that on Usyk, but he didn't. He let Usyk out jabbed him, and you'd expect the bigger guy to be the other way around. Usyk, I felt, fought to orders from his trainer. Got a great trainer, by the way. Lomachenko's father is a very good trainer, and I think for an interpreter at the end after the fight, he said himself, he was told not to go for a knockout, to go and outbox him, which is what he did. But he did nearly knock him out. He caught him early on in the fight, wobbled him. And the last round, I think his corner were about to throw the towel in. So I think he's capable of knocking out Joshua. But then I think a lot of people are capable of knocking him out.
Do you think we need to get Deontay Wilder back into the mix with all of these guys to create massive fights?
Look, Deontay Wilder is a dangerous, dangerous fighter. I mean, he's got tremendous punch. Ask Tyson Fury. He's had Tyson on the floor, 3 or 4 times in the various fights they've had.
4, yeah.
To me, be honest, I think he should retire. But if he wants to fight on, he can fight on. He's never going to be in a boring fight. He's not got the style to be in a boring fight. Same as Joe Joyce, same as Dubois, same as Tyson. They're all exciting fighters. They're all exciting fighters, and putting them in against each of them against each other, they're great fights for the fans.
Do you think this is a special era of heavyweights? Where it obviously is for Britain because there are so many of them in the top 10, top 15. You've been around lots of eras. I know how inspired you were growing up with Muhammad Ali and almost there on the cusp of being involved with that generation. But obviously you've promoted Mike Tyson, you've been through the Lewis era, Holyfield, Lewis, Tyson era, Riddick Bowe. Is this a special era as well?
Yeah, it is. I mean, Herbie Hyde won the world title with me. Frank Bruno won the world title. So, a few of my guys who I've been involved with have won world title. We've steered and they've managed to win world titles. But this is a special era. I mean, when I got into boxing, when I grew up, it was always the heavyweights came from America. That's where it happened. All the Olympic champions, heavyweight champions, came from America, and then it stopped. I think the last champion they had was something like 1986 or something, a gold medalist in the heavyweight division. And it shifted over to this side of the pond, and it shifted here to the UK. I mean, we're blessed with heavyweights. For the size of our country. And looking where we're at, I mean, I think we got at least 5 of them in the top 10, and the number one, the boss of them all, is Tyson. So they're all there. You include Joshua and the other guys. It's unbelievable times. I never have thought this in a million years. I mean, I grew up Henry Cooper, Jack Bodell, Brian London, and Joe Bugner, who, by the way, was a bloody good heavyweight.
Yeah.
Very good heavyweight. But this is different. This is a different class now.
Why do you think that we've got the heavyweights now and America hasn't? Have you ever put your finger on that, or talked to Bob or Don or any of those guys over there and wondered why?
I think a lot of the American big guys are playing basketball or playing American football, maybe. I think from over here is that a lot of them are turned on to boxing. Boxing, it's been thriving at amateur level, certainly prior to COVID. And it's been a lot of boxers have been inspired by the likes of, the early days of, when you think about Frank Bruno, Lennox Lewis, all those guys, even Anthony Joshua and certainly Tyson, they've inspired them.
Do you think do you think the Olympic system and lottery funding and all of that helped as well? The Sheffield.
I do. I think that has helped. There's no doubt about that. I'm sure it has. It has helped. And it's it's been great. It's great for British boxing. It's been fabulous. I mean, I think the amateur level, we've been sort of probably the most dominant nation at heavyweight, haven't we, for a number of years? And Joe, by the way, should have got a gold medal. He got robbed.
Yeah. If you were to put your finger on it, hand on heart, do you think Daniel, who's still only obviously in his early 20s, Daniel Dubois, do you think, and it feels like he's been around forever anyway, do you think he will take over when all these guys are in their early 30s, mid 30s? Do you think he's got what it takes?
He's got youth on his side. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah,
he's got youth on his side. Joe's only had 14 fights. I mean, there's a big fight between them two down the road again. There's a rematch, which will be huge. Will be huge. I mean, when we first put them together, the Border Control called for the title fight. We sold that out like within the space of days at the O2 pre-COVID. It was gone. We had to postpone it twice, and eventually unfortunately went behind closed doors.
Right.
Now, though, the guys have come on. Both of them come on. Daniel's come back with a few wins. Joe's gone from strength to strength. They're both in great positions. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a massive, massive fight. But they're all massive fights between all the Brits. Chucking Dillian White back into that mix. I mean, there'd be great fights. Either of them with Dillian. You got Tyson if he decides. I mean, there's some great fights. Who knows what's going to happen with AJ if he gets beat? What he wants to do. Some fabulous fights to be made there.
And then with heavyweight boxing, just to finish that and recap, with heavyweight boxing so rich, it really does filter down and helps the sport because they are the big marquee nights. And in spite of the fact that there are big names lower down the weight divisions, there is something special about heavyweight boxing, isn't there?
Well, there's that old adage in our sport, there's heavyweight boxing and there's boxing.
Yeah.
And there is, people like the big guys. They love seeing the big, you can feel it in the air. It's something a little bit special.
And have you got a favourite heavyweight that you've promoted and a favourite heavyweight in your life?
Favourite heavyweight I've promoted is Tyson. And I've promoted some really, Frank Bruno, as I said, Herbie Hyde, they all won world titles with me. I've got some, working with Joe, they're lovely guys to work, but the guys actually won the world heavyweight title and done everything. It's been Tyson. It's been great fun working with him, and he's been, when I think Harry come back, no one wanted to know him. He was like 11 stone overweight, all those mental problems he had, suicidal thoughts. He was ostracized, and Harry's turned his life around. Just doing that himself has been a miracle. But to win the world heavyweight title and do it in the other guy's backyard for the second time, he did it with Klitschko years ago. He's an amazing character, and he's been for me the best fun and the best guy I've worked with. And
he is a genuine crossover mainstream star now as well, isn't he? I mean,
he's a huge star. He's well and truly crossed over. He's had 2 books have been bestsellers. He's got a 3rd one coming out. He's on tour at the moment. It's a sellout tour around the country. The public love him, and he loves the public.
And if outside Tyson Fury, who's the heavyweight when you look back at history that's inspired you?
I'm going to say 2 names because that's how it is. Muhammad Ali, obviously, because when I was younger, that's what turned me on to boxing, watching Muhammad Ali. He was like unbelievable. He was an unbelievable athlete. He was an unbelievable sportsman. He was all the things that I've never seen in sport before, loud, brash. More importantly, he could fight, colourful, just everything was unbelievable. And I was lucky enough to meet him when he came over to the UK when I was a kid, like through my uncle. I met him a couple of times. But for me, one of my most favourite heavyweights is Larry Holmes, who I just loved. I thought he was a sparring partner when he was a youngster with Muhammad, but he was a phenomenal heavyweight. He had one of the best jabs, if not the best jab, of any heavyweight, and a great chin. He was a superb fighter.
Brilliant stuff, Frank. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you, mate. Good stuff. Look after yourself. See you, Gareth.